All right, Kiss Army, welcome to the KissFAQ podcast. Thank you for giving us your time today and letting us into your head. I hope we don't do any damage. We're just a bunch of Kiss fans and we talk Kiss. So come along for the ride, you've got nothing to lose. All right, welcome to the KissFAQ podcast. I'm your host, Julian Gill. I'm back this week. I've been traveling like crazy the last 6 to 8 weeks, so I have got no travel now left until October-ish. So, yay, I'm home.
Yay.
All right, got Daniel Wees and
Hi.
Marcus Almighty Mark.
Greetings.
And maybe Ken will make it. I hope it's only a Windows update at an opportune moment, because Windows sucks ass. But welcome to everyone who's joining us live. Thank you for tuning in with us today. We're going to be destroying alive when we get to the main topic today, and it's a little bit of a carry on from the other episode that we did. Which I can't even remember what it was. I'm so tired. So whatever. The concept around that, I'll see if I need to drink more coffee if I can come around in a minute. But last week I was, before all the work of this week, was in LA to see Ace at the Whiskey. And it was a super fun show. I had a blast there. You know, not only were there fun people in the crowd, Lips from Anvil was there, and he was a really, really cool guy to chat with. That smile is real. I had a great conversation with him. He's a true diehard rock and roller. He is the spirit of rock and roll. He's got that Lemmy mentality of keep playing, keep moving forward, keep believing in yourself and your art. And if people come along for the ride with you, then all the better. But really nice guy and very cool. The Ace show itself, I don't remember the opening act because I wasn't really interested in who they were. Hadn't heard of them. No offense to them. But I was there only to see Ace. I got in early and got to watch sound check, staging and load in technical setup and everything. And the amount of work that the crew do to get that show on stage, for the most part, we usually just see the show. When it kicks off, we go in, the doors open, we go in and everything's ready. There was a lot of attention to making sure that the sound was right, dialing in the sound system. Then getting the drums are a big part of the work, getting everything done. Scott Coogan was there working to make sure everything was perfect. Jeremy and Ryan were in for sound checking for their stuff. So it was fun just to watch the whole process behind the scene. And then, of course, they did do the sound check, and I just wrote down what they were blasting. For people who are out in the line, they probably heard Love Gun, parts of Detroit Rock City, Love Gun again. Well, obviously Love Gun, She, and Rip It Out. And it was very cool. Obviously, it's only the band doing the sound check with Ace's tech, spotting him on guitar, because Ace comes in right before the show to do everything else, because the guys have got everything set up, ready to go, dialed in. They know how Ace wants things, and for the most part, that works out very well. Loud. Well, he needs it loud to be able to hear his monitors. His hearing is not great, but the show was great. The set was fun. My only quibble was that Rip It Out wasn't played. It was on the set list, but there you go. Things happen. I got Deuce. I got Rocket Ride. I enjoyed Rock Soldiers. Cherry Medicine was good to hear live. It was a good show. He's been in good form in recent months, in my opinion, and I've very much been enjoying watching the YouTube videos. But you know what? Sitting in a booth in the Whiskey A Go-Go, I had never been there, and it's one of those legendary venues. Cool. It was an opportunity to go to another one. And see a show there. It was almost a can't miss opportunity. I started my evening at the Rainbow having my traditional Lemmy with Lemmy. Always like going there. I'm really affected these days by Motorhead's mentality of we're Motorhead and we play rock and roll, and just letting rip on stage. No pretension, no ego, no smoke or mirrors, no bullshit, just loud rock and roll. So my only complaint of the Rainbow is that you cannot have a good Jack Daniels and Coke with fucking Pepsi. Get rid of the fucking Pepsi. What is that shit? You might as well just pour corn syrup on people's brains. That's my only complaint of going to the Rainbow is Pepsi. You fucking kidding me? You're gonna do that right next to Lemmy? Really? Shame on you. Fucking shame on you.
Quick to mention that Super Sepper comment. The Anvil documentary is fantastic. He wrote, "You met Lips, metal. It's a great song, but the documentary, what a documentary! It was sort of a, groundbreaking documentary, and several bands have tried to make similar documentaries afterwards, but there's only one original, and that's the one. So I think it's called." What's the name of that documentary? It's something like the story Anvil.
The story of
I think it's called the Anvil, the story of Anvil, or something like that. But if you haven't seen
Anvil on Anvil.
Anvil on Anvil
gets you.
No.
So great movie.
Yeah, the documentary is strongly recommended. If you haven't seen it, check it out. Again, it's one of my favorite rock documentaries, up there with Beyond the Lighted Stage. Hey, 2 Canadian bands in one favorites list. That's all right. So what else was there about that? Oh yeah, so after the show, Ken and I did get in with Ace, and you never know how Ace is going to feel after a show. He's been doing this he's been on the road doing a long run, and we did get the books in front of him for him to see and actually feel. And Jeremy, who's obviously been interviewed for it, and Ryan got to see it as well. And again, slamming down a 6-pound full color draft copy. Basically it's properly printed and bound, but it hasn't been through proofing, copy editing, to design, and to anywhere near the final stage. But it still makes it very, very real. And Ace was flipping through it. He was commenting on stuff. He was stopping on stuff. And again, we only had like 10 minutes because there were paid meet and greet people who were waiting for us to get the hell out of their way, so they could get in for their time with Ace. But it was fantastic to get it in front of Ace. He was on great form. Big thanks to John for helping make that happen, and to Jeremy and Brian and Scotty, for allowing me in to watch sound check as well. So thank you all, Ace Frehley team, and of course the road crew. I saw you busting your ass. You work hard for that show, and always respect the road crew, because without them, there's no fucking rock and roll without the road crew, right?
Yeah.
So there we go. What other news this week? I don't think we need to get into any of the other podcast. Paul's been on another one for part 2 of the Billy Corgan episode. I did not listen to that, but I did listen to Carnival of Souls in its entirety yesterday on the drive home. So I got the little Billy Corgan intro there. That's as much Billy Corgan as I need. Thank you very much.
I listened to it.
Yeah, we can recap that in a little bit more detail when we've got Ken here, because I want to make sure we have at least one reasonable party for commentary. We don't have the voice of reason. We really can't have that conversation, can we? So good job to you guys last week for hosting Burnt. I'm sorry it couldn't have been me. I'm sorry I wasn't available to be part of the show, but I'm also really glad that the other guys got to do a show with you to talk about your adventures in Scandinavia in 1980. There's still a lot of conversations to have about that. But I think there's more conversations to be happening this year now for what's coming up next, which is going to be the anniversary of Kiss Alive, which is
go on.
imminently. Oh, Mark, no, you go.
No, Julian, I'm surprised, very surprised, my friend, that you haven't brought this up. But I know that you're one of these guys that's like, unless it's official, no mentioning. But I got to say something. I mean, I was absolutely overwhelmed and excited to see this mysterious video dropped on the Kiss Online about the possible Asylum, something coming out, maybe a deluxe edition or a colored vinyl reissue or something. Being a huge Asylum man myself, this is, believe it or not, I'm more excited about this than any kind of a live box set or anything else like that. I want this Asylum thing. That's right up my alley. So I'm very excited about that. Maybe a new T-shirt too from that era. Now you're talking, Marcus Almighty stuff here. So I'm surprised Julie didn't mention anything.
No, I'd completely forgotten. So thanks for interjecting and reminding everyone that that pre-sale is coming up, and this time they're giving notice that a pre-sale is coming for those people who are members of the Kiss Army fan club. So go over to Kiss Online for information. If you're interested in joining, then you will be getting early access to that and other things. They're trying to build it. It's developing as they go. It's a little bit like Kiss Army Storms Vegas. It's developing as they learn. So, if you're into that, I don't give a damn about a foil cover Asylum, Mark. I've got the album.
Yeah,
So
but do you think they could do anything instead of just a regular vinyl color, color vinyl and shirt? Is there anything else they could do with Asylum? Or is that what we can expect? Yeah.
Will they do it though? Because like I said before, they have video of a show. They have all kinds of stuff. So they wanted to make a really nice thing with it. They could, but they never do. They want to just, they have like a pattern. I think they have like a template almost of what they do with these reissues. At least that's what I see.
It's all related to business and legality, so they have limitations. Universal can only reissue things in the form that they are already approved, and Three Sides went into some of the details on the more business side of these things. So they can't just do box sets without it going through a whole new process of approval for very many aspects of it. So there's only so many ways to skin a cat, Daniel, is the saying. What are they going to do? You can do a reissue of the vinyl, and they're making it different by including posters, by doing foil cover treatments. Who knows what else is going to do that, and by packaging them with T-shirts and whatnot and card sets. Those are the limitations of what is possible. Can they do something greater, grander, and more amazing? Yeah, but then it has to go back through all that approvals and budgetary process. Mark,
I see.
But that's the thing that bothers me about it. Like you just said it. Can they do it? Yeah, they can. But I mean, it requires them to do work, and that's the thing. I keep having this feeling that they just don't want to do the extra work to this. I mean, you can.
They should put some guys from Pop House on that.
There's no reason why they can't go and do it. I mean, it's just a little bit of extra work, maybe a little bit, maybe a lot extra work. But you know what? People want it.
See, and I'm surprised by you, Mark, because you do vinyl.
Yes,
you are
I do.
Part of the music industry. There is no such thing as easy.
But so what?
When it comes to doing something new. Now, this isn't even easy in reconceptualizing these reissues for anniversary editions. Oh, hi, Ken, by the way. A lot of effort goes into it, and Tom Germain and T42 put a shit ton of effort into even these reissues. So making it different with new photos, new artwork, new designs, new things, new approvals, new bureaucracy, new business issues, new profit and loss line items. It is much easier to simply reissue to commemorate. And that's all these are. These are commemoratives. These are not super deluxes.
I know, but
now, could they do a super deluxe of Asylum? Yeah, they could easily hit it out of the park with, I'm going to say it, 6 CDs, easy for Asylum.
Yeah, because Max, I think, is from Holland. He asked you questions. Are there demos from that period? There sure is. There sure is. Take It Like a Man, different versions of Secretly Cruel and stuff like that. So anyway, so there's a lot of stuff.
There's a ton of demos. Yep. There's a ton of outtakes. I don't even know what's in Universal's vaults that they had. But you know what? Let's not be completely ungrateful. This year we've had an off the soundboard from the Asylum tour as well.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
We have had something new, Mark.
Yeah, no, I know, but I'm just saying
it's just not coming at the same time.
I'll just say this, and I won't say anything more about it. But the thing is, being somebody who does this stuff and does get involved with pressing CDs and vinyl and stuff like that, yeah, it takes effort. It takes extra work to do it. It takes some time out of your day to do this. But you know what? In the end, usually the results are worth it. And sometimes if you have to jump through a few hoops to do it, I mean, isn't it worth doing it? I mean, that's the only thing I just find, unbelievable, because you have all these other bands that are doing much more things to it. Yes, I know some of them
the
own their stuff, and I know there's all the same answers I know for this. But the thing is, there's always a way around it. There's always a way. You can't convince me otherwise that there isn't a way that you can maybe contact your lawyer and get something going to maybe work out some things or negotiate something. You can still do it. It's just it takes time, and people just don't want to take the time. That's what
You know what I'm looking forward to is the refocused Kiss Asylum episode from the KissFAQ. That will be something.
Yes.
Yeah,
And that'll be all new, Mark. That'll be new
yes,
material.
that'll be new.
Yep, and much less complex than the record
Yes.
label drama. All right, Ken, glad you could join us because
What happened?
we've gotten through the preamble.
It's the first time you're late in 10 years.
Yeah, computer issues,
Okay.
Yeah.
Didn't want
What did
to
I say? I said
work.
inopportune Windows update moment. So I said
I think it's some kind of update. Yeah.
Yeah, we couldn't have a sensible conversation about destroying a live without the voice of reason. So
No.
Ken, glad you're here. All right, let's get into today's topic. I want to share with everyone the inspiration for this episode. So here's a short clip.
I read somewhere right here in Cleveland that you did a live album in Detroit. It's called Go Hall, but we did. Why are you doing another one here? We wanted better. You didn't like? No. It didn't come out as well. Do you know? Will this be the next album? Yes. You know when it'll be released? Probably within the next 2 months. Probably by the time it comes out. We don't know what it's going to be called. Here's a heavy question. It's going to be a double album, though, and there's going to be one side of new material as well. So there'll be 3 sides.
So it's just a coincidence that today is June the 21st, and 50 years ago today, Kiss were recording the second show for Kiss Alive, and Gene was being interviewed in Cleveland, Ohio for that clip. And he mentions the original format of Kiss Alive was going to be 3 sides live and 1 side new material. So that is where the concept for We Destroy Alive comes from. What if Kiss Alive was 3 sides live? Which 5 songs or which side of songs would you get rid of, and what would you replace it with? Now, I kind of said that the replacement should be, for what they were kind of working on by mid-year, and included the Magna Graphic demos, which were ultimately released on the, what was it? What album was that, Mark? Kiss Destroyer, Super Deluxe Edition, and had circulated for many years. But they'd also had sessions earlier in the year, 4 songs, 2 of which were used on Dress to Kill. So there were 2 leftovers as well, predating Magna Graphics. So how did each one of you approach this fucking stupid topic? Because destroying a live seems like sacrilege, as much as fixing a live 2 was. So, Ken, how did you dig in and start thinking about, number one, the first part of this is going to be which songs to axe from Kiss Alive? How do you do that? How do you shoot children?
Yeah, it was more about which songs to reduce it. I was trying to make it backwards. I did backwards kind of idea of doing things, I guess. Because of Alive 2, I thought, okay, we had those 3 Alive sides and then 1. So how can I kind of match up to that going backwards? So I wanted to make it the same amount of songs. And I think Alive had 1 more song than the Alive 2. I think it was 16 versus 15. So I decided in the end, finally, just to reduce Alive by 1 song, and then remove 1 song, and then reduce another song, the length of the song. Reduce it to its kind of album cut. So that's how I thought about that. Otherwise, the Magna, those demos, Magna Graphic or whatever demos, I used those. I was going to go outside of that and use something else, and then I decided it was too far of a left turn to put that on the studio side. People would have said, "What the heck are you doing?" And then I'm talking about Master of Flash. So I almost put that on there.
Wow.
But yeah.
Oh.
So otherwise, then I just chose one of those demos or 5 demos to make it work and all fit, within kind of the parameters of 15 to 20 minutes per side kind of thing.
Yeah, interesting. It's tough any way you slice it. There you go, another nice asylum
nice.
reference. Daniel, how did you approach which alive songs to get rid of?
Well, I've been in the military, so I follow orders, and I was asked to X 5 songs. So I X'd 5 songs from Alive and replaced them with 5 songs, and I really couldn't go to Destroyer because I wouldn't want to mess with that album. So I went to those demos, the Magna, whatever it's called,
Magna Graphic.
Magna Graphic manga? No. Yeah. So that album. Yeah.
No hentai. All right.
Yeah. So that was the way I approached it.
See, I'm having fun because I was interested to see how you were going to take that very broad question that I posed for this episode and interpret it. Okay, Mark, how about you?
Well, I think I made it kind of logical in one way, but I restructured one side 1, 2, 3 to how really a Kiss show went. I mean, the problem that I always had with the live one was that that's not a realistic set list to what they were playing. I mean, that's why I immediately changed on it. The ones that got axed are the ones that they never really, well, they did play them obviously, but not in a normal set list that I've ever saw from a live one. So that already kind of gives you a hint of what got X-nayed on the album A there. So, but the stuff that I added was songs, and I was surprised by the ones I picked. I'm not going to tell them no, obviously, but I'm surprised by the ones that I did pick. But I picked them with the sense, though, that since Eddie Kramer's the one who worked on Alive and mixed the album proper, I would have assumed in my world that he would have been the one working on the studio side with them as well. So that instantly gives me a whole new different approach on what those demos could possibly sound like in the hands of somebody different. So that will explain probably why I picked the songs that I did.
I'm with Daniel and Mark because I did 5. I followed my own instructions of getting rid of 5 songs. And I went through set lists to see which songs they had gotten rid of on various occasions. So Tulsa, they're doing an opening set for Rare Earth. They cut a couple songs themselves. And other shows, they cut a song here and there. So I got my list of 5 from Kiss. It's all on them, not on me. I'm not the one butchering Alive. Okay, just to be absolutely clear. And then after I posed the question, I was like, oh shit, Destroyer's produced by Ezra, and he's already in the picture to definitely produce that next album. He was lined up for a little bit before they even finished recording shows for Alive. So you wouldn't get the benefit of all those Bob Ezrin co-writes and what he did to all the Magna Graphic demos for the ones that would be used and developed and became those songs on Destroyer. So Eddie Kramer would generally have just been more of an engineering producer recording them, and they would sound spectacular, but not necessarily be the best songs in the world compared with what Bob Ezrin was doing, rearranging, rewriting, and wholesale. That's not good enough. You're writing something else. So I'd worked myself into a little bit of a conundrum of how to produce it, and that's what guides me on the studio side. But for the live shit, it's just pick 5 songs that Kiss didn't perform at various times during the set and hope it wasn't a result of tape running out, from the bootlegs that survive of the era. All right, let's get started with Destroying Alive. Ken, what's the first song that you're removing and why?
Yeah, and I just edited my list.
Again, you did that like an hour ago.
I know, I did it again. There's something I thought of that I wanted to do, so I replaced this song. So anyway, without saying that, so what's my first demo?
Yeah, we'll
No,
just
first
rock
demo
around the
is
table.
going to be
No. The first one that you're getting rid of to make space. The first song from
Yeah.
Alive that you're deleting. You're Bruce Kulicking. You're editing her out.
okay. Well, I'm going to remove well, I'm really just removing one song, period, from this whole thing. So, like I said, I'm reducing time, which is going to create. This is going to create time, right?
Making his own rules here.
And some length of songs. No, I kind of, as long as it fits within the 20-minute parameter.
I thought we were supposed to remove songs.
I am removing
Okay.
parts of songs too. So anyway, okay, I'll go with the first song that I'm just going to remove out, or the only song remove totally, is "Got to Choose." Yeah, no, it's blasphemy, right?
Yeah.
I'm removing that one because I got to choose which one to remove. Anyway, so that's the one I'm going to remove. Do you want me to put a song in its place?
Nope. We'll do all
the fourth side is going to be by itself, everything, right?
Yeah. No, we'll do the fourth. We'll do the fourth side completely separate. All right, Daniel, what's your first one that you're getting rid of, and why?
Well, first of all, I have to say I didn't want to remove any song from Alive. It might be the most perfect album Kiss ever released, but however, Julian forced me. And my first song is also Got to Choose, because I think, I think looking through the set list, I think the album would still be a cool album without that song, even though I enjoy especially Peter's vocals on that one. It's a very hard competition, so that one gets left off the album. That was my first pick. Yeah.
Wow, I feel dirty. Mark.
Wow.
Well, you're gonna feel really dirty because I also picked and got to choose because, like I said earlier,
that's interesting.
That's not on the running. Like, I mean, look, I watched Cobo Hall the other night. They didn't play "Got to Choose." I watched some of the other ones. They didn't. That song appeared maybe a few times on it, but not on the ones that I've ever heard from that time period. Maybe I just wasn't listening to the right ones, according to Julian. But it's not on the ones that I have live concert footage of. So I gave that the big axe.
Wow, I'm shocked. I would just like to say that Got to Choose was not on my list, but my list may well be worse. Yeah. I got rid of Watching You.
No,
I couldn't. When I went back through all the bootlegs from the Dress to Kill tour, so pre-August 1975, I couldn't find any recording with it on there, so I assumed that it either wasn't noted in any reviews or had already been supplanted by Dress to Kill material. So I did not include that, but it was simply for that technicality, not because I don't like it. And I think it's an integral part of the live album, having that song, because it sounds fantastic live. Daniel, back to you for your second pick.
Oh, my second pick. My second pick is Gene Simmons' song. Well, I don't know if it's really a Gene Simmons song, but it's actually a combination between Gene and Paul, I would guess. And I like this song. I liked it early in the set list when I went to the reunion tour. I thought it worked over there, but the placement in the set list on Alive I never cared for, because the song before this one should be the one ending the album, and the one I picked is actually Let Me Go Rock and Roll. Even though I like the song, the record should end with Rock and Roll All Night instead. That would be a better ending of the record. One of the few things I would change. I would, if I could just change the order of the songs, I would, switch them up a little bit and end with Rock and Roll All Night. But because I'm leaving Let Me Go Rock and Roll off the album, Rock and Roll All Night ends the album, and it's a perfect ending. So I have to remove Let Me Go Rock and Roll. Great song.
Agree. Same reasoning. I had the same song. Mark.
Interesting, because I always, I didn't do that because I thought to myself, well, back then, I don't think it was nearly as popular a song. in my opinion. But that whatever. That the thing is that I always figured that was a much better ending with the confetti and all that shit going on. But anyways, my second song that I removed is ironically the same one that Julian picked again, Watching You. I took that one out as well because Watching You again was not really in any sort of popularized set list that I've seen. I mean, it was on the album, but that doesn't mean that they played it more regularly on the show. So see, people keep having this sort of revisionist vision of these tours. If you watch the tours, the actual videos of them, they're not playing some of these songs live. This is just done to make the album the way it is, like, I mean, wake up. I mean, this is not the way that the shows were,
This whole thing is revisionist, though. This whole episode is revisionist because
that's true.
Yeah, I know. But that's how I approached
this whole episode's bullshit make believe.
Yeah, I know, but that's what I'm saying. So the way I approached my way is to kind of make it a little bit more to what I think was a proper way of doing it. That's all.
Okay,
so
you're trying to be logical. Yes.
Yeah, I'm doing your job today, and you're doing mine apparently. So
yeah.
So I took Watching You, and I gave it the old heave ho out the door.
Yeah, I mean, don't ever assume that they didn't perform stuff during a tour, whether it's Creatures of a Night or whether it's Dressed to Kill, because we just don't have enough set lists. And where we do have songs mentioned in press reviews, even those aren't entirely accurate either. Ken, are we hurting you? I mean,
no.
Tell us about some of the other adjustments
Let Me Go.
You
mean Let Me Go Rock and Roll? Well, Let Me Go. Let Me Go Rock and Roll. I thought about it, but I thought, what, the live version is so cool with the extended instrumental part. I think that's what makes that better than the studio version. So I kind of changed my mind on that one. Watching You, I would never touch. But anyway, so my next song, we're gonna say it's a reduction in time because she comes up at 6 minutes and 42 seconds on the live. So I'm gonna cut it down to the studio length version, which is 4:08. So I'm saving, 2 minutes and 34 seconds on by cutting out, some stuff there. So, I mean, I like the extended version on the live, but in order to save some time, to fit everything on 4 sides of vinyl, that's what I did.
Yeah.
So it's just a reduction on She. Yeah.
Let me just sing the praises of She again after standing in that sound check with Ace's band doing it, and I'm the only person there. Holy crap. I had new respect for She after that night.
That's cool.
It's so well performed by them, and I got it twice at night. Daniel.
Wasn't She the song that band did for one of his albums? Wasn't that She that his band did for one of those Origins albums? Or was it another one?
I can't remember off the top of my head.
Was it She?
I think it was. Well, I wouldn't touch She because I love that ending. I love the way they perform it on a live, and I love that's about the only song I like on Kiss My Ass. Classic Kiss Regroove with Anthrax. With that ending, I think that's a real cool version. That was actually the version that got me into She, I think, because I thought it was so heavy and cool, and that ending and everything. So I wouldn't touch She, but I would cut out a part of a song as well. Now that you have changed the rules a little bit, Ken, and you're the voice of reason, so I can listen to you. And
okay.
I would actually, I don't know if what this would have done to every drummer that listened to Kiss Alive and became drummers, because they often think that Peter Criss solo is so great and that made them drummers. But I would cut the entire Peter Criss drum solo from the record to save time.
Crazy talk.
Yep, but I never liked it. What made me want to play the drums was the way Eric Singer interpreted the old stuff. But I'm a youngster when it comes to Kiss Alive. I wasn't there when it came out. But for me,
same here.
I prefer Eric Singer's drumming, the Peter Criss solo. To be frank, I never really cared for it. So remove that.
Okay,
Wow.
Frank. Wow. What the fuck?
He's speechless.
Yeah, who's next?
I guess I can go if you want.
You can go.
Yeah,
Mark.
go. Daniel's
Okay,
completely
so
left me.
anyways, that I'm not even a drummer, and I think that's insane, but it doesn't matter. I mean, everybody picks what they pick, and that's just how it is. I mean, again, I would keep it mainly just on the premise that I want to keep it as an actual concert, not some, K-Tel Presents version of Alive, So for me, I would pick, and this is very simple. This is one of the easiest songs I thought to axe from this whole thing is Rock Bottom. I mean, to me, that just seems like an oddball song on this whole thing. I mean, well, where it's placed, you're having this big ruckus, great show, and all of a sudden come back with dee 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 dee. It's like, that I just doesn't make sense for me having that in there, So if anything, that should have been axed. This is that intro. As much as I love that part, and I've played it numerous times with my friends and with my bands and stuff like that, so I love the song. But in reconstruction of this, Rock Bottom had to go. I thought it just completely killed the flow of the record, and I've always thought that it was sort of the odd sticking out sore thumb in the record to begin with.
I like the way they shortened the intro to Rock Bottom. That's the length it should be.
Yeah.
Yeah. But not good enough for Mark. Yeah.
No, not good enough.
No, I got rid of Rock Bottom as well. It seemed like an easy target without touching any of the more core songs. It's a very tough thing because the Alive is so well balanced and rounded as a product to make any or even suggest any changes to it. It is really perfect in form and substance in representing a Kiss live experience, not a Kiss concert, but Kiss live and the catalog at that point. I've wondered if in transitioning from planning on only doing 3 sides live, 3 album sides live, not of the coin, whether they struggled in terms of material that they had or had been recorded during the shows up to that point, and whether they were changing the set later on when they get to Davenport and Wildwood in order to get more songs from the catalog performed and recorded before they went into the studio. So I'm just going to blast you my final songs removed from the album. Obviously, Rock Bottom was one. I'm also getting rid of Parasite and Nothing to Lose. Parasite doesn't crop up in enough of the sets that I was able to see, so I figured they didn't do it in Tulsa. So I figured it was a fair target that if they were dropping it for shorter sets again. Kiss is making these decisions, Daniel, not me. I am simply the mouthpiece.
Exactly.
You're removing so many songs. There's not going to be any songs on the record.
Oh, we're going to be fine
lots.
when we get to my side. When we get to my side 5 or side 4, we'll be fine. And Nothing to Lose, because we get Peter, in other places vocally on the album, and I want to keep the drum solo, because I think that is spectacular, and it has inspired a lot of people to pick up the drumming and play, and was their introduction once they started going back to learning how to play to ghost notes, a very important part of drumming that I think it needs to be there, plus effects on drums and phasing. So I'm not messing with Ace's solo or Peter's solo, so I got to get rid of a couple of songs, and those are the rest of mine. Daniel, give us the rest of your picks.
Well, Nothing to Lose. I cut that one as well. I think it's a pretty cool song, but compared to the rest, it's a bit weaker. It was never a staple in the set when, during my era of the band, or even during the reunion and the Tommy Thayer and Eric Singer era, it wasn't really good enough. It was pretty cool. Wasn't it on MTV Unplugged as a pretty cool version with Peter singing it? I think that's my favorite version, I think. But on this album, if you have to cut 5 songs or at least a lot of time from the record, this one goes. It's one of the less strong songs on the album, so unfortunately I have to cut that one. Do I have any songs left to cut? Well, if I have to cut one more, I actually have to cut a song that no one of you has mentioned, and I never really cared for this one. I like the way Paul played around on stage during this show with a microphone and with a call and respond with the audience, but as a song, There are way better songs on this album, and the final song on my, that gets left off the album for me is 100,000 Years.
But you already cut the drum solo, so now you're cutting the whole song.
Yeah, cutting the whole,
You
cutting the
guys,
complete turd off the album.
Actually, it's one of the best
right.
songs on there.
I'm
No
never
way,
letting
no
you
way.
edit any of my work ever because you're a crazy man with an axe.
No, I would actually be pretty hard on your work, Julian. I would cut some things from your.
Oh,
This man is a teacher,
you better
isn't he?
believe you better believe it needs it. So, Mark, the rest of
Yes,
your picks.
I only have one more. I only cut out 4 songs, so I'll change the rules
Only
just like how
4.
Ken has changed the rules in this whole thing. So the last song that I picked out to axe, and I once again I think me and Julian are kind of simpatico today with our picks here, but I just picked this one mainly because not because I don't like the song, and they do play this on the set list pretty much. I think every set that I've ever seen of them playing. During this time period, they played the song, but honestly, it's one of the songs that I just sometimes find they're a little sloppy on, and even the introductions of it is a little like, not the best. Nothing to lose. That whole do. Come on, everybody, you got nothing to lose. That whole thing is like they could have put something better than that. That song has never been my favorite, anyways, off of the first album. So I had really not a problem with tossing that out. And plus, sometimes if you listen to some of the bootlegs, they got Peter Chris's vocals horribly loud and I got nothing to lose. Like, whoa, they have to like turn it down a little bit in the mix. So I just don't have a problem with getting rid of that. So I only got rid of 4. Got to choose Watching You, Rock Bottom, and Nothing to Lose.
Okay, Ken. Any further adjustments, or would you like to change the question?
here is your rules. Which songs would you dump?
Wait, are
from
you
the
quoting me
album,
back to
and
myself?
Which 5 Destroyer by me would you replace them with? But it
Since
doesn't
when
say
does anyone
how many
follow
songs
the
I did
rules,
that. You said
let alone
songs I
make-
would dump.
Yeah. Songs you have to dump. What's so unclear about
I'm not
that?
dumping. I'm dumping one. I only dumped one song, and I reduced another
but
one to make
not what
a
it says
live 15 songs. So it would be 15 songs, just like a live 2 is 15 songs.
Boy.
Otherwise, you only have no songs. You're
This is
going
what-
to have 10. You're going to have only like around 10 or 11 songs.
This is why we have so much trouble
11
in the world.
songs.
People don't know how to read questions properly.
Oh no. So anyway, this is what I have left over, which is nothing to remove. It's just I'm replacing a song. I'm replacing Firehouse with Let Me Know.
Nice. I like.
Okay.
You got nothing to replace.
Okay, so now we're talking about the songs
Yeah,
we're putting
no.
in now.
Okay,
No,
so we're putting it.
I'm replacing.
No, that has nothing to do with the studio side,
okay.
but
Oh.
no,
I could say,
agree.
you know,
I agree with you, Ken. I love the idea of getting that damn song, and that was on today's Crunch Time episode celebrating Cleveland '75. Right
I
at
gotta
the
watch
tail
that.
end of that, you get to hear some of the King Biscuit version. Great pick.
hopefully
What do you have
when
against-
the live box set comes out, we have that.
What do you have against Firehouse? That's the best version of Firehouse ever.
It is actually.
It's a good version. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a cool version. Don't touch
But
that.
I like Let Me Know better than Firehouse.
Oh,
so
Lord.
that's the thing.
Then
I like the
All
way
right,
what
so-
they do in concert for Let Me Know.
Go and listen to the Let Me Know podcast instead.
All right. So the second half of this question is,
Oh, hey, you're still here, watching or listening. Why don't you hit that subscribe button or click the like one? And if you want even more, click on the join button on YouTube. Thanks for your support.
yeah, I edited that out of it.
And hit the thumbs up. I recently saw that we passed 100 thumbs up on a recent episode. That's not very common. So do hit
I
the
was
thumbs
gonna-
up as well. Yeah.
I was gonna say though on the Paul Stanley raps, I
Yeah.
don't know. I wasn't gonna time how much time he uses on all that stuff, but it's probably he could have reduced his rapping.
Classic.
On the record.
I don't think he can. I think as a calling card, Kiss Alive, is like a business card for a whole Kiss performance. They were doing great business on the road,
Except,
and it is everything that the fairy tale says about the album.
except
I
yeah,
love
the end of the road and the end of the road, they took out all the raps pretty much, and it actually worked very well. You just kept going, you know. Some of the raps are ridiculous, you know. But
All right.
especially
So
the
part
80s.
two,
Nowhere
part
near
two
the
of your
80s.
mission was to create a side of live music, and I'm sorry, a side of
Studio.
music,
Yeah.
which undoubtedly they wouldn't have mixed producers and had live produced by Eddie and studio produced by Bob. It would have all been Eddie Kramer, I would have thought. So that's how I've approached it. Ken, you had so few songs that you were really abusing. I think you should go first with your first pick for your studio side.
Okay. Ken is right, by the way. Yes.
I'm sorry, I'm blind. I can't see that.
Okay. All right.
Going
All right.
black.
My first song I'm going to add is God of Thunder, the original Paul Stanley version of the song.
Mm-hmm.
I mean the happy crappy up tempo.
Yeah, it's still yeah. We don't know, you know, if Bob Ezrin was never around to produce the Kiss album, we would have probably gotten that song as it is, and we probably would have enjoyed it to this day.
I got
there you
nothing.
have it.
Daniel, your first pick.
Well, I just have to comment on Ken's pick there. First of all, I think God of Thunder, the Gene Simmons version, is one of the best metal songs in the early years ever. So I wouldn't want to hear that Paul Stanley up-tempo song. That would, put the nail on the coffin on the classic Gene Simmons song that he played for decades after that. It was such a perfect song for Gene. So Ezrin managed to tweak that in order to make it a perfect Gene song. So that's one of the best things I think Ezrin did on Destroyer, that he took that song and made it a Gene song. So I will not pick God of Thunder by Paul Stanley. And I won't mess that much with Destroyer, because I think there's a few songs on that demo tape that can be used for a side for, because I think the fourth side on a live record is sort of a throwaway, so to speak. I wouldn't like to have Detroit Rock City, God of Thunder, and shout it out loud on the fourth side of a live LP. No, they should be on a studio album. But some of the songs from the demos could be used for this. And my first pick is a song that I really enjoyed. It popped up maybe 10 years ago. We got to hear this one, at least I did, and it's a song that is very reminiscent of the Dress to Kill sound, and it should have been on that album, but there are so many cool Paul Stanley songs on that album, so I guess it didn't fit. But on this side, it would be perfect. And my first pick is, of course, It Ain't the Smoke That Burns You, or whatever it's called. It's the fire.
Yeah.
Bit of it's so much better quality on the Destroyer Super Deluxe Edition than what we had for many years. That's on my list as well. So a great break. Also, before I go to Mark for his response to both Ken and Daniel's picks, I agree with you. I didn't want to damage the integrity of Destroyer. So all of my picks are not songs that ended up being Mark, get
That
over
was
it.
the integrity of Destroyer.
No, anything that was released on Destroyer, I've left to Ezrin because again, everything he did to develop those songs and turn them into the versions that we had, I didn't want to be changing future history with my picks, and I totally see that extra side of studio material on a live set as throwaway.
But we're changing history.
I know we are, but I'm not trying to be too outrageous in how I did. All right, Mark, have at it. You've got 3 people to comment on now before you give your first pick.
Well, I mean, look, everybody has their own approach to it, like we said before. So there's not really any sort of wrong answers to these things. So I understand, Daniel has his love of the kind of Rolling Stonesy kind of guitar playing there. So it makes perfect sense that would be picked. And I don't dislike the song. I've never had a bad word to say about it, to be quite honest. So that's fine with me. Julian, I understand his love of the album of Destroyer and the work of Mr. Ezrin, stuff like that. I can understand why he would, feel it is unnecessary to touch these songs. But I'm going to go kind of like down Ken's route here a bit, because when I looked at this, I thought to myself, thank the Lord that we can do this, because now we can take that abysmal Ezrin production, toss it out the window, and now finally get somebody to take these songs and give them some proper love and attention. Now, don't forget, everybody, when they think of Eddie Kramer, they think, oh, he did those Kiss albums. But this man did lots of stuff. He's done Buddy Guy, Anthrax. He's done, Spooky Tooth, Peter Frampton. He's done Mott the Hoople. He's done Triumph. He's done, and I'm telling you, on all those records, he wasn't sitting there and just going, okay, yeah, I'll just do this and that. He did obviously put his input in on stuff in there. Believe me, there's lots of interviews where he said that he's, told Hendrix, how about we try this or we do this and that. He's not a forceful producer. He's not like Ezrin where he says, this is what we're doing and that's it. He kind of just gives suggestions. If they take it, they take it. So I'm envisioning him taking these ideas that Paul and the guys had, and maybe saying, who's to say that he wouldn't say, I think Gene should sing God of Thunder. Who's to say he wouldn't have thought of that idea? So in my world, I'm picking God of Thunder as the one of the songs, the studio songs on this side, because I can envision him giving it a really great thick guitar sound. I don't think he would leave it up tempo. I think he would have brought it down, maybe not as slow as Bob did, but I think he would have brought it down a bit. And, it's still up in the air, I think, whether he would make Paul sing it or not. But I still see a version of this song that's better than the original demo, but vastly different than the one Bob Ezrin did. And I think I would like it better, though, because Bob didn't touch it.
All right, Mark, let me ask you a question. Do you think Paul Stanley would have, if Eddie Kramer was producing this studio side, do you think Paul Stanley would have allowed Eddie Kramer to give away another one of his songs? Remember, it was Eddie Kramer who basically had Peter Criss sing Black Diamond in 1973. Do you think Paul Stanley, at that point in his career, years on, he was green and nothing in March 73 when they did that demo. Here they've had a little bit of success now with Rock and Roll All Night, the single. Do you think Paul's going to say, oh, shucks, sure, let Gene sing it?
I'll approach it to you this way. Back when they started, there was that great, story about how they went into Electric Lady and they saw the sign, Eddie Kramer, on the door. And they were like, wow, that's the producer. So don't forget, they've only been together as Kiss for a couple of years only. I would think that Paul's ego really got the better of him by the time he got past Love Gun. I still think at this point, he might still be a little bit, letting Kramer have a bit of influence. Don't forget, he did, give Peter, one of his other songs too, Hard Luck Woman. He didn't have too much of an argument there, and it did end up being Peter's song. So I still think that it's possible. Like I said before, I don't know if he would have done that anyways, but I still think that that Kramer still had enough power and influence on them that I think that if he said recommended, I still think Paul would have given a good heavy thought to it.
Interesting. And yeah, they're still struggling at this point, so I guess anything's possible. All right, Ken, next pick, please.
Next pick is Burning Up with Fever. Gene Simmons. So that. What version is that?
That's the Larrabee. That's the earlier one because it's.
I like that. I really do like that.
It's more up tempo than the Magnographic version that's on the Destroyer box, and that's pretty crappy quality, but that's just what circulates. So
I like that version.
I wanted to use that one instead because that would more. That was one of my picks, by the way, because it's one of the other Larrabee demos that wasn't used for,
It's a good song. A really good riff in it. Yeah.
So your reasoning?
My reasoning? It's Gene. No, it's because Gene helps, but I always like that song. Even on Gene's solo album, I like it there. Though I think as a just straight ahead rocker, it's a really, really good song.
Yeah, I like the tempo on that one. It is faster. It's more kind of rocking than, and I don't know whether there are tape speed issues. It doesn't matter, really, because that's just what it sounds like. I like the growl at the beginning. I always like that.
Yeah.
But I can just see them going back and not having time. And saying, well, we've got, we used half of the Larrabee stuff already. We've got half of it left. Mistake ain't going to fly no matter what. It's going to be the wrong sort of song for anything. Burning Up with Fever is at least rocking. And that doesn't mean that they can't reuse it on Rockin' All Over because Gene's not happy with how it turns out on a live. And then reuse it for a third time. So that's one of my picks. Mark, your next pick and comments on Burning.
Actually, the interesting thing is I'm going to also, because it's on my list too, Burning Up with Fever is on my list as well.
Yes.
And I also picked it for the similar reason that I picked God of Thunder. Once again, I envision Eddie Kramer taking this song, and this is totally in his kind of wheelhouse for like production and stuff like that. Heavy kind of guitar riff, Gene with his sort of, monstrous voice going on there. And I could totally see him beefing it up a bit more. Maybe he would have suggested a few different little, subtlety changes in the guitar tones, here and there on different parts. Maybe in the chorus, he would have added a little different guitar tone with it just to give it some, definition and change from verse to chorus and stuff like that. I just think that this is the kind of music that Kramer, did well. In all the records that I mentioned earlier, he always had that kind of attention to detail in there. So I really think that this song, he would have really gave it his attention as well. So great pick. And I had that as well.
Yeah, it's pretty well formed in terms of arrangement and everything, isn't it? As a developed song versus some of the other Magnographic stuff it's the Fire. Who was it that said it sounds like it could? Super Zapper. Thank you. Smoke sounds like it's going to fall apart at any minute. So it's very loose in terms of they could have obviously worked it into shape if they had chosen it to record. All right, Daniel, thoughts on Burning, and once you're done with that, your next pick.
Well, I never liked Gene Simmons' 78 album really, but a lot of the demos that Gene had a lot of potential. So I actually picked Burn Up with Fever as well. But I would like to KissFAQ a little bit. I like the up-tempo version. And I especially like the chorus to Burning Up with Fever. I mean, you hear it once and then you start humming that chorus. It's a great, great chorus that should have been on a Kiss album. Well, technically, Gene Simmons' 78 album is a Kiss album, but you know what I mean. I'd like to see that on the fourth side if there was a fourth side. I like the song. It's a great song.
All right. Well, let's have your next pick then, please.
My next pick. Well, I listened through the demos, and actually, there were quite a few Gene Simmons songs that I liked, and another one is "Howling for Your Love." I think that would be a cool version, sort of like larger than life on Alive 2. "Howling for Love" could be a pretty cool song on Alive 1 on the fourth side. I like the way Gene sings it. It's a typical Gene song, and it should have been on the fourth side. It's a great song that really never went anywhere after this. So great song and fits Gene perfectly. Not too soft, not too hard, somewhere in between. Pretty cool song.
Fits him like a glove, eh?
Oh, that would be even better if we had that one.
No, I think that's a good cheap throwaway, really. I mean, to do a side of studio songs and not really damage stuff that comes in the future. Good pick. Ken, thoughts on?
Yeah, I like that.
That song was.
That was "How for Your Love." I think it's a decent song, pretty good. I enjoy that one. I almost picked it. I think I was thinking about it, but I did not. So, but my next one, I guess, is what did I say? Oh, Detroit Rock City. I'm going with that because I think, even though the middle part where that Ezrin came up with, the solo is not there, it's still a good song. I mean, that kind of makes it a great song, even a greater song. But I still think it's a really good song, and it would have been a cool Ace would have pulled off a really good solo on that that version.
What would you have started Destroyer with if you left Detroit Rock City off Destroyer?
Oh.
That doesn't matter. You wouldn't know.
Yeah, it matters. It matters. It sure does.
Probably a Gene Simmons song. No, I don't know. Why.
Oh no.
King of the Nighttime. There you go.
Yeah, that might work.
It might work.
Daniel, reaction to Detroit Rock City?
No, you can't touch that Destroyer version of Detroit Rock City. You would mess everything up. So, of course, Detroit Rock City is a great song. Even the demo is a great song. But don't touch God of Thunder, Detroit Rock City. They are masterpieces, classic Kiss songs. And I know Mark especially enjoys the production on those two.
Oh, yeah.
Really? That's why I'm waiting to make Mark go last. Mark, your thoughts on Detroit Rock City as a pick, and then give us your next pick, please.
Detroit Rock City. I'll get to that one because I have that on my list as well. But I'll get to that after because I want to talk about my other pick before I get because that one I had as my fifth pick. Because I only got rid of 4 songs, so I replaced. I put studio side as 4, but I do have 5. But that's my fifth. But let me talk about my number 3. My number 3 pick is "Don't You Hesitate." I've always thought that this song was really good. I think it's one of Paul's songs, and with Paul, usually when he does a song and he presents it, they always seem to be the most, well recorded and best presented of them. And all you need to do is listen to their demos of like "I Stole Your Love" and "Love Gun." They always seem like they're near completion, almost sonically speaking, right? But this song I've always thought it was good. I mean, it's straight ahead rock, good vocals, good backing things. But again, I think Eddie Kramer is the ace in the pocket here when it comes to these songs, because he has that kind of magic that he can add to this stuff. He can take something like "Don't You Hesitate" that sounds good, very straight rock, but he can give it that extra magic, bring in that Marshall, 1968 Marshall head and tell him to use this for the guitars, and take this Fender amp and put this in the pre-chorus part, or do this. Like, he knows how to structure and sonically make stuff sound pleasing to the ear and make the drums sound really nicely, in a good room and stuff like that. He knows all the little ins and outs, the quirks, to make these songs better than they are. And that's why when you make these demos and give it to him, it's a good idea, because he knows how to make them sound like completed works of art. and I've always loved his stuff. I mean, Ezrin has his own way of doing that. I just don't agree with how he does it. But I think that Kramer does it more to my style. It's much more guitar centric, much more heavier rock and roll. So I think that he would make "Don't You Hesitate" a true masterpiece, in my opinion.
So Kramer makes the sonics boom.
Yes, there you go. Imagine Kramer doing this. Go on.
All right, good pick. That's on my list as well, by the way, because it's like the last ounce of juice squeezed out of Dress to Kill in terms of feel. So it's so transitional. We've often like thought when it first leaked that it was an outtake from Dress to Kill, but with it being closer to the middle of the year, maybe it was just a leftover idea that hadn't been realized. And so it goes perfectly on my side 4 of the album, and that would have been the single.
Interesting.
If they'd done a studio side single like they did with Rocket Ride for Alive 2, then it would have been Don't You Hesitate in my reality. Daniel, thoughts on
Well, Don't You Hesitate is a great song, but since I picked It Ain't the Smoke That Burns You, I think they're very, very similar. It seems almost like the same song. So I couldn't really pick both of them, but I agree it's a great song, but I prefer the Smoke song. I think it's a bit cooler, a little bit more developed than this one, but both are great songs. But I think they're very, very similar. I think it might even be the same song at times. So, well, my next pick, however, would be another Gene song, actually, and it's "Man of a Thousand Faces." I think it was a bit too wimpy on the Gene Simmons solo album in '78. Here you can hear some of the potential. I think if he could use Ace, and he puts his Ace-isms all over this song, and there's a really cool riff in this one. Exploit that a bit more, and have Ace, adding stuff throughout the song, because it's a very guitar-driven song. So I think this could have been a pretty cool Kiss song. I'd like it to be a bit rougher, tougher than on the '78 album, but it would just slide in perfectly on that side 4.
That's an interesting pick. I can't imagine Gene's solo album without it for all those reasons.
I can't imagine being without Gene's solo album. No problem.
Ken? So you can't imagine being without Gene's solo album. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, the solo album sucks.
No, it does not.
Oh,
jeez!
Oh,
wow!
There's that sweet.
Let's hear it, people. Yeah.
Anyway, the other songs, Don't You Hesitate. Another Stonesy kind of feel on that one. I do like that. It's interesting. Maybe it's doing too much Stonesy stuff at that time. That's why they didn't use it, or the other one. So for which is next new? Man of a Thousand Faces?
Yes.
I picked that one.
Yeah, I think you need
I
to
picked it
respond
too.
to that.
I picked it too. But I picked Man of a Thousand Faces.
Oh. Why?
I don't because I like the song.
It
I think it would be a well done. Even though on Gene's solo album, I love it. On Gene's solo album, I think it's great. But I think it would have been better, or they could have made it cooler, a little bit more rockier on the album. or on the the fourth side of that. So especially with Eddie Kramer producing, so I think it would have been pretty cool rocker. So yeah,
Again,
I like it.
It's a well-formed song at this stage anyway in 75. So I
Yeah.
guess I have no problem with that. But I just like Gene. I like Gene so actually. It's quirky. It's weird. It's
Yeah. Eclectic.
Mark. You got two
Yes.
songs the same song to respond to now, I guess.
So I'm responding to Man of a Thousand Faces, and the reason why, of course, I'll respond to it because obviously Ken picked it, but I also picked it too because
Another one, three of you.
I believe that once
Mark and I
again,
matched again.
yeah, because once again, I think Eddie Kramer will take the song and give it what it needs. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not a heavy song, but he'll make it a touch heavier. But those aspects that where there's like some cleaner areas, acoustic guitars are something that Eddie Kramer does very well. I've always loved the sounds of recorded acoustic guitar a la Eddie Kramer. So when you put that in to this song and give it that right, microphone setup, a nice, U47 microphone or something, and get it in there and mix it in nicely with some electric in there as well. I mean, just imagine that sonic bliss you could hear when he's playing this stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
I can just hear it. I mean, just this to me is a complete no-brainer. That's why songs like the songs like this would work well, because he's adding in something. Gene has a tendency of adding in a little left field stuff in there all the time. Well, not all the time, but a lot of the times. And sometimes it doesn't work. But in this case, it could work because if you got the right producer behind it that can kind of put it in right amounts and right proportions, man, you got a real winner here. So, and I'm not going to say that this is like the be all end all song. Obviously it's not, but it'll definitely be a solid release on a side 4 of this record for sure. Definitely.
Mhm.
Okay. How many picks does everyone have left?
I have just one.
Yeah, I have one left. Uh-huh.
All right, Mark, give us your last pick.
So my last pick was Detroit Rock City, because of the fact that I thought that the same thing. Now this, how different it would be from the original. It would definitely be different because I don't think that Kramer would have came up with that whole I don't. That's not really his thing.
No.
Coming up with
Yeah.
stuff like that. But I still think though, with time, they could have came up with a decent solo section for that. Maybe another little part they could have came up with in there. It wouldn't be the same song, but when you have Eddie Kramer in there, you don't expect his songs to sound the same as Bob Ezrin's songs, and that's why when you go and you're starting a record and you're going to think of getting a producer behind it, that's why you listen to their back catalogs of what they've done to see what they're going to be bringing to the table, right? And I just think he would have brought something different to it. And that's why it was my last pick, because I'm just not sure what I would have gotten out of it. But I still think it's a strong enough song to have started working on with him. And it could have turned out to be a decent song. I still think the winner on this record would definitely be Don't You Hesitate when it's all said and done. But I still think it would have fit okay.
All right. So going back to the way that I talked about how I approached it, I tried to use up material that had been recorded before this and had fallen by the wayside. So Undressed to Kill, they recycled She and Love Her All I Can. And I'm pretty sure as throwaways in my fantasy land, they would have revisited Keep Me Waiting and Simple Type to kind of more usable or serviceable Wicked Lester songs that were written by Gene and Paul. Obviously he wouldn't do Molly. So here's some of Simple Type done by Kiss and what it could have been foundationally. It was an important part of the club era.
2, 3, go!
All right, there's 8 minutes of that roughly. But,
Wow.
that's from the Daisy, and you know what? As a throwaway, knock that into 3 minutes. But again, the duet of Paul and Gene at that stage, you know, why the heck not? There's way more in that song in the Daisy. Go listen to that. It's up on YouTube in its entirety. You know, there's drum sections. Musically, it's completely, disjointed, and it's jammy. I get heavy metal Beatles, got to get you into my life as I noted, but there's so many different elements in there that throw it away, get rid of it, get it out there, and you're not sacrificing anything that they're working on potentially for Destroyer. And Keep Me Waiting, that would have needed a little bit more work, but I still think they'd considered it for Hotter Than Hell. Who knows? This is Fantasyland.
Yeah.
Ken?
Yes. So I like that idea. It's interesting. All right. So my last song is Bad Bad Lovin', which would have gotten rid of probably, obviously then Calling Dr. Love would have never happened later down the road. But I still think Bad Bad Lovin' is cool. It has a transition issue though. A little bit. I think they would have figured that out between the verses and going into the chorus. It's kind of a strange transition on that, but I think they would have got it nailed down if they recorded it on the record. So I like that. It's really a good song. It's like a different chorus than Dr. Love, but the same verses, kind of thing. So it's still I still enjoy it. So I like it. Put it on side 4.
So what happened to this pick?
I know. I almost. Yeah, that was the one I thought it would be too much of a left turn, and it might throw some fans.
It's a
off.
cover. It's a cover.
I think the fans wouldn't have enjoyed it. No, it fits with the time of Bowie and everything back then. What Bowie's doing.
Ziggy.
And it's so.
Well, he's isn't he doing American What It Is by now, Bowie? He's
what year is this? 75?
Yeah,
this would have been
75.
Diamond Dogs, and then on to like
Dogs was 74, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'm saying that after that it went into
so it may have been too late, maybe, but it would have. I wanted to use it, but then I thought, oh, it's too kind of different from the rest of the song, so I decided not to.
Yeah, so this is that was John Montgomery, and that was that Street Punk that he was
Street
in?
Punk. Yeah, he's in Street Punk.
He bought that song.
Yeah, that was one of the bands that they did club gigs with, and Gene bought that song from John, but he didn't buy it until circa 1980. And there are, suggestions that Kiss tried to buy songs from Pentagram in 75, and other acts as well. So, who the hell knows? I mean, all these things in terms of history are kind of cool. So, who's got a final pick?
I got a final pick, and I enjoyed your last picks. This Detroit Rock City, even though I would never touch the way it sounds on Destroyer, I'm really, really curious on how it would sound with Eddie Kramer as a producer. I would have liked to hear that version as well. The Simple Type thing, great idea, Julian. I didn't think of that. That could have been something if you cut it down to 3-4 minutes. And Ken's idea was good as well. But I actually went with another Gene song. If you lose the maracas in True Confessions, I think it could be a pretty cool song on a fourth side. So True Confessions, a final Gene song on the fourth side, and that's my final pick.
All right. Well, there we are. Those are some of our picks again of destroying
Mama,
alive.
I'm not done yet. Oh.
Marcus, edit that out. Edit her out.
Oh yes, you are. You're done.
All right.
No, you're not done yet, Mark. We're wrapping up right now, so we are nearly done. All right. So that was Destroying Alive. Just going back to the original format again of 3 sides live and 1 side of studio. What songs would you be putting on that studio side in 1975? Would you destroy Destroyer? And use songs that would be used for that, or would you go back and try and reuse some of the songs that hadn't been used? There's a ton of material that we don't know about or publicly, kind of discussed. These guys were monsters. They were writing, they were throwing things up against the wall. When you go back to, no one mentioned Life in the Woods. Could they have knocked that into a song? Much too young, part of Acrobat. Well, other than it becoming, elemental on a Destroyer song. Could it have been a song in its own right if they needed to? But you have to figure, if they didn't use it on Hotter Than Hell, they didn't use it on Dress to Kill, they really didn't want to use it, period. So would they have used it in 1975? And I think some other things come into play. Why did they change the format? Was it because they had Bob Ezrin in line to work with them in the studio? Was it because of the financial issues with Casablanca and Neil Bogart and contract? Was it because they sat back and looked at it and said, this is dumb? Let's just do a proper double live album. Forget wasting any material. We need more time to work on that. And that's kind of my take on that. Magna Graphics stuff is rough. And I don't even know the date that was actually recorded. I'd love if anyone does have the studio sheets for Magna Graphics, because I don't think that was even mentioned in the box set. It's assumed it's July, but was it? Because again, we don't know everything, even if we think we do. Chris, thank you. Enjoy.
It's a good
lot
book.
A lot more has surfaced since that book, but I hope you enjoy it. I got to get back to reading Joey Casada's book, because I want to get Joey on the show to talk about his fan fantasy based around the Elder. But I've just been so busy with work, Joey. So I will finish reading that and get you on the show to talk about it. All right, that's it for this week. We've destroyed Alive. Which album can we destroy next week? You choose.
Let's destroy another one.
Yeah. All right. That's it. Thank you for joining us. We very much appreciate your support, whether you're joining us live or whether you're catching up after the fact. We will be back very soon. But for now, from Daniel, from Mark, Ken, Lonnie, and myself, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for spending time listening to the KissFAQ podcast today. All sales are final. There are no refunds. If you'd like, look us up on Facebook or come over to the message board and discuss the topics we've broadcast today. Don't forget to hit subscribe wherever you've listened to this show, and a like would very much be appreciated. We hope you'll join us again, but until then, remember, life's a radio. Turn it up to 10.